Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, today we're going to do another episode of Bytes and Nibbles with Breck. Today we are going to make macaroni and cheese in the Dutch oven. Now I've experimented with the Dutch oven once before, got really good results, but the recipe book I had specifically was designed with using the Dutch oven around a campfire. Today's recipe actually is something really designed specifically for being put in the oven. So let's look at our ingredients. Alright, these are the ingredients for our Dutch oven macaroni and cheese. They include, in no particular order, some flour, some panko breadcrumbs, some heavy whipping cream, some milk, salt and pepper, some garlic salt, some onion powder, macaroni of course. I'm using seashell macaroni pasta this time rather than elbow macaroni, but you can use whichever you want. Some butter and 3 types of cheese: sharp cheddar, Parmesan, and mild cheddar. Also, the recipe calls for using some taco seasoning to kind of give it a little bit of kick, but they also say if you want, you can substitute the taco seasoning for hot sauce. And I've elected instead, because I like to put jalapenos in my macaroni and cheese, I'm going to replace the taco seasoning and the hot sauce with some of the jalapenos from my yard. So that's our ingredients. Let's get going. Now your first step is going to be that you're going to preheat your oven. I'm not actually going to do that right now because, as I've mentioned before, it takes a little longer to do these things when you're also shooting a vlog and setting up shots and all that stuff. So I'll preheat my oven a little bit later, but you should do it now. And you're going to want to preheat it to 400 degrees. The first step for us is we have to prepare our macaroni. So in a large pot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the water up to boiling. Now it actually says use salt water. I'm not really a huge fan of using salt water for cooking pasta, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just using regular water, but if you wish, you may use salt water. For those of you who are unsure how to boil water, you just have to look that one up on the internet. Alright, my water has come up to a boil now, and I am going to add 12 ounces of shell macaroni. Now you can use any kind of macaroni you want. You can use spiral macaroni or elbow macaroni or bow tie macaroni, but the recipe specifically says, in this case, shell macaroni as your kind of default step. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in here and we're going to cook it for about 9 minutes, constantly stirring it just to kind of keep it moving. Pasta tends to stick to the bottom of the pan if you don't keep it moving, at least for the first couple minutes. So I'll see you in about 9 minutes. Now as the pasta's been cooking, I've been slicing up the jalapenos so that they're ready to add when the time comes. Alright, 9 minutes have passed by and our pasta is ready. I'm going to strain it now and we're going to put it aside and we're going to prepare the next part of our macaroni and cheese. Next, what I've done is I've put my Dutch oven on the stove itself, and we're heating it up to kind of a medium temperature. What we're going to do is we're going to melt 4 tablespoons of butter, and then once the butter is melted, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of flour and kind of just mix that all together. Now that the butter is in and melted, I'm going to add the flour, and we're just going to kind of blend that all together. This will help us kind of thicken everything up a little bit here. Alright, now that our butter and flour are combined, I am going to add 1 cup each of heavy cream and milk. Then we're going to slowly bring that up to a boil, and we're going to let it boil for about 2 minutes. Then we're going to lower the heat and let it boil just kind of gently for about 10 minutes. Alright, so we've been cooking this now for about 2 minutes at a boil. I'm going to lower the heat to a low medium and we're going to let it just keep cooking for another about 10 minutes. And then we're going to start folding in the cheese. Recipe says you want to keep stirring it the entire time, so keep stirring it the whole time. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes now. Our cream and flour and butter have thickened up really nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start feeding in the cheese. I got 3 different kinds of cheese, a sharp cheddar, a medium cheddar, and some Parmesan cheese. And we're going to just kind of slowly feed this in and stir it in until it mixes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of it in here. Start mixing it up. And this is going to make it good. It'll get really thick now. Recipe says if you want to, you can increase the heat a little bit while you're doing that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back up to a medium heat again. Put a little bit more of the cheese in there. Kind of mix it all in. Get it all nice and cheesy and melty. Oh yeah, that looks good, doesn't it? You can tell already this is going to be good. Let's get a little bit more in there. And then we'll just put the rest of it in there. It's getting thick now, so I gotta grab onto it a little differently here. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now I'm going to mix in my jalapenos at this point too, because I want to have them well blended in with the cheese mix before we go too much further. And that sound is the sound of my oven being ready, so catch up with you in a second. Alright, let's put the jalapenos in there. As I said, I chopped those up a little while ago. We're just going to kind of mix that all in there nice and blend it in there real well. Like I said, these are all jalapenos from the garden, so nice and fresh. Alright, next thing we got to do now is mix in the macaroni. So now that I got the macaroni in there, I'm just going to basically stir it all together. Make sure we get cheese coating over everything. Want to make sure we get all the cheese off the bottom here. Looks good, doesn't it? I'm going to put the camera down for a second so I can use both hands, and I'll catch up with you in a second. Alright, we got that all mixed up real well. Next thing I'm going to do is I have combined my 1 cup of the panko breadcrumbs, a half a teaspoon each of salt, pepper, and garlic salt and a quarter of a teaspoon of onion powder. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to coat the top of this with the mixture. The recipe says just coat it nice over the top. You should be able to see a little bit of macaroni underneath, but for the most part this is just going to be the nice solid coating over the top. And it kind of looks like that. I'm going to turn the heat off, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this into the oven, and I'm going to put the cover on it. The recipe doesn't say specifically whether to put the cover on right now, but I'm going to take the precaution of putting the cover on for the first phase of this. There's actually two phases of cooking in the oven. You're going to cook it at 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and then we're going to switch the oven into broil mode, and at that point I'm going to take the cover off and we're going to cook it for another 10 minutes with the broil on. So let's cover this thing up, put it in the oven, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. Alright, 20 minutes have gone by, and we're going to put the oven into broil mode. We're going to put it back in uncovered for another 10 minutes, and then this should be good to go. Looking good, doesn't it? I wish you could smell this. Alright, 10 more minutes have gone by. Turn off the oven, turn off the timer, and let's get this thing out. Now the recipe says to let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to do that. But let's take a look at this thing here. That looks pretty good, I think. I think the panko breadcrumbs maybe burned just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. I was actually watching it as it was cooking, and at about 5 minutes it kind of looked like this. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be a problem. So we're going to let this sit for 15 or 20 minutes. I've actually got some corn on the cob in the Instant Pot, and we're going to cook that at the same time. And we'll come back to this in 10 or 15 minutes, or 15 or 20 minutes. I'll see you then. Alright, about 15 minutes have gone by. And yeah, pretty much looks the same here. Put that aside, let that thing is steaming here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some of this here. We're going to put it onto the plate, and we're going to give it its taste test. Alright, the all-important taste test time. Now, I gotta tell you, this smells fantastic. So I'm kind of looking forward to this, and let's see what it's like here. I wasn't sure how the panko breadcrumbs at the end would go over the top of it, but it actually kind of adds a little crispy taste. I like the idea of the jalapenos in it. It's got just a little bit of a zing to it. Might not be for everyone, but you know me, I like my food to bite me back. But it's fairly good. I like the it's really nice and cheesy. It's not as creamy as sometimes you might think of as macaroni and cheese, but it's got a good cheesy flavor, and it seems like it would be really filling. So I'm pleased with this. This is a good recipe, and I would definitely try this one again. So I'll put the recipe in the description below. You can try this if you like. Anyway, I think that is all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit!